and boy, there were things just shooting everywhere. Well, now that didn't last up until that time. It ain't been about 3 or 4 minutes, and they got some fire trucks out there or something. Anyhow, they come out there and they run a sweeper up down at the runway, and they give us our instructions to go ahead and take off, and we did. We went down and took off, and but that was that. I never thought about it anymore, because things like that in the war happen all the time. Now this happened right at Christmas time in 1944. It was either Christmas Day or a day or two before or after Christmas, because I didn't make but 3 flights over there into Yugoslavia. And I remember on Christmas Day we were making one of those flights because we were listening to the King of England making a speech on the radio, and that's the way that I remember that. And then a few days after Christmas, well, we left there, and I went back to my squadron in Rome, and that was my last combat mission. That was my last flight. I got back to Rome. Well, they had my orders ready, all made out for me to come home. And in fact, they had been made out while I was over there in flying out of Pochi. Well, just a few days later, they flew me down to Naples, Italy, and we were deprocessed out there, and they deregulated us. Took us down to the docks there, and we got on a big old boat, USS West Point. I got out of that truck there on that docks down there at the port in Naples, Italy, fixing to get on the boat to go home. And I looked up there, that big old boat sitting there. Boy, it must have been 3 or 4 blocks long. Looked up there on the side of it. It said USS West Point. That was the same boat that I come over on almost 3 years before. I was going back on the same boat. It was the biggest passenger liner that the United States had at that time was Henry Kaiser's masterpiece, the USS America. The war came along, the Navy took it over, renamed it the West Point. Well, there he was. I still standing on that Italian soil there, and I just take a minute or two to just go back over and review it a little bit, see if I left out anything. Boy, I'd spent a lot of time over there, and a lot has happened. I'd made a lot of acquaintances and friends, and I was leaving most of them over there. The highlight of my life had taken place, about 10 days or 2 weeks before that, in Rome, Italy, there at Ciampino Airport where I was stationed. I'd been over on the eastern part of Italy, flying out of one of the Pochi airfields over into Yugoslavia. And I went over there in about the middle of December 1944. I remember soon after I got there, I read about the Battle of the Bulge beginning over there in Belgium, and stayed over there until sometime between Christmas and New Year's. And we went back to our squadron there in Ciampino Airport. And I remember I flew in there one evening, and I took off for town. Hadn't been around there a good while, had a lot of friends in there. I went to town, and I stayed all night and the next day. Well, I come back the next evening, and I went by that orderly room. Now, I didn't have much business around the orderly room because that was the first sergeant's department. He was our boss, but actually I worked for the line chief down there on the line. And we had an agreement, sort of, that if the first sergeant stayed out of our way, we'd stay out of his. And it worked out pretty good like that. We didn't have to stand in a roll call or book a chow line or anything like that. And had an assistant crew chief to take over my duties if I wanted to take off. Could just take off anytime that I wanted to. Over there during the war, there was no restrictions on your movements around the towns and the countryside. You could just take off and go anywhere you wanted to. I did. Nobody ever stopped me or said anything. And trucks was on the highway just like beehives, you know. You could get a ride anywhere, or even on an airplane. And it's just a good thing that you could travel around like that. But anyhow, I come back from Rome that evening with about that order room. There's a notice there on the bulletin board. Sergeant Harris report to the personnel department. Well, personnel department, they kept all of our records and everything. And they were pretty nice fellas. They were what you might call newspaper men. That was sort of their line of work. And clerks. And they were really on the ball. They would, anything that we'd done over there in that war, our squadron done it, or we personally done, that they would make a write-up and send it back to our hometown newspapers, wherever you wanted it sent. And send it to the El Dorado paper, Arkansas Gazette, Shreveport Times, and they really give you good write-ups. And you didn't have to ask them to do it. They done it on their own. That was part of the morale, I guess. But anyhow, I went by there. And I remember this soldier in there, Buck Sargent, a fellow from California. I believe his name was Kujak. I can see him just as plain if it was yesterday. The fellow, he sort of reminded me of Jack Webb. His Friday on that TV show, you know. Well, anyhow, I went in there and he said, sit down there, Harris. I got some news for you. Okay. He said, you ready for some news? I said, yeah. I said, good or bad? He said, well, but I don't know. That it might be all good, it might be all bad. So I'm just going to leave it up to you. And he had two bundles of papers there, and sheets of papers. He said, now look at this bunch here. He said, you know Master Sergeant Tucker, your flight chief. Yeah. He said, well, Tucker's going home. That we done cut his orders, and the line chief, Master Sergeant Shadowlands, said that he needs a new flight chief, and you're up for it. Said, what do you think about being Master Sergeant Harris? Well, I thought for a few minutes, and right off the bat, I get my pay cut about $50-$60 a month. I'd get knocked out of that flying pay, which is about $75, and a little bit raised on the other rank. I wouldn't have too much, and then I wouldn't be able to fly around the country and see everything like I had been doing, which I enjoyed very much. I'd be more or less restricted there to the air base, more or less an 8-hour job, just routine. Well, if I figured on staying in the Army as a career, I would have probably took that promotion. But I told this fellow, I said, well, what's this other news you just told about? He said, well, looky here. And he pulled out some more papers there, and he shoved them over to me, and I started reading them. And they were just like Army is, you know, everything started off at Army headquarters, and it finally come on down there, and it must have named off 7,500 fellas there. Finally got down there to me, Tech Sergeant Charles E. Harris. And it was travel orders from Ciampino Airport in Rome, Italy, to the debarkation center in Naples. And it said, final destination by Army conveyance, United States of America. Well, boy, I'm telling you, there was no decision to make. And right there, right in the middle of the war, right in the middle of it, looked to me like, we're still fighting over there in France. Hadn't even got up into Germany. The Battle of the Bulge was just still going on almost. And no telling what was taking place over there in the Pacific War. We didn't get much news of that. And right there in the middle of all of it, well, United States Army say, Charlie, you done your job. We're sending you home. And I'm telling you, that was the most wonderful experience and feeling that I ever had in my life. It wasn't just all of a sudden thing. It just sort of grew on you as you thought about it. And it kept building up and building up. And it got to be a big thing. It wasn't like the war being over, your whole unit being sent home. That would have been good enough. But this was something else. This was a private thing. They picked me out individually and said, Charlie, you're going home. And boy, I'm telling you, nothing is since or before has ever happened to me like that. I wish that everybody in their lifetime could have a feeling like that. And there's very few of them that do. It might be that when your first child is born, you might get that feeling. I don't know. But I don't know of anything else that can compare with it. And another thing I've noticed after checking over my discharge, my orders to come home were cut there in our wing headquarters December the 15th, 1944. And that must have been the very day that I flew over to Fuji. Because I remember just about the time I got there, they started that Battle of the Bulge, and I believe that started on December the 16th. And then I stayed over there almost 2 weeks. Of course, I didn't make but 3 flights over to Yugoslavia. But all of the time that I was over there in combat, well, my orders were laying over there in Rome for me to go home. And boy, it would have been a sad thing indeed if I'd run into some trouble over there in Fuji. But as it is, everything worked out all right on that end of it. You know, in the Army, when they're issuing written orders, it takes them forever and ever to get them ready. If you're waiting on something, you just forget about it entirely. But when they come through, they've thought of everything, the smallest detail. Everything is taken care of, and you hardly ever run into a hitch any place. That was one thing I marveled about the Army. I'm going to make a little rundown here on my decorations and whatnot I got over there. I got 3 campaign ribbons. The American Defense, the European, Africa, and the Middle East, and the Asiatic Pacific. I got the Good Conduct Medal. I got 2 Air Medals, and I got the Distinguished Unit Badge. I never could figure out how they gave you that Good Conduct Medal. It seemed like they'd just forget about it until you screwed up, and then they'd give it to you. I got my first Air Medal for flying out of India over into Burma. Our pilots and crew chiefs got Distinguished Flying Crosses. And I was an assistant crew chief at the time, and I got an Air Medal. We got the Distinguished Unit Badge, which was originally a Presidential Unit Citation. First one I ever heard of at that time. But we got that for having such an overall success on the whole operation from the time we left Sicily until we got back there. We made it in a good time, and we didn't lose any aircraft. The only ones we lost was maybe 5 or 6 of them, and that happened on the airfield at Chisinau in Burma when we was landing in there when they first captured the airfield. The Japanese were still on 3 sides of it, and they would shell the runway out there with small mortar fire. They just make a pothole out there about the size of maybe a 55-gallon drum, and when you landed, if one of your wheels was hit with them holes, you landed here at Buckle, and you had to leave the airplane there. But I imagine later on they repaired all of them and flew them out. Now, I got the second air medal for dropping paratroopers in the invasion of southern France in August 15th, 1944. Now, we dropped the paratroopers in there early that morning. And you talk about the longest day. Well, that was a pretty long day. And looking back on it, well, I remember just before dark one evening, we taxied all them airplanes over there to load them paratroopers on. Now, I was probably been up all day. And we taxied them airplanes over there. Well, sometime during the night, we took off, and we flew over there to that coast of southern France, which was about 500 or 600 miles, I think, over there. And we dropped them paratroopers. And then we came on back. We stopped off at Corsica and refueled and come on back to Italy. And we hooked onto a glider. And we pulled that glider back over there, along about the same place there in France, and let it go. And then we went back to Italy, flew back again, and we got a load of the Stars and Stripes newspapers. Now, they had some quartermaster guys on there. And we flew back over there, and we went up down the countryside there, kicking them bundles of papers out. Everywhere there was some troop movement down there. I don't know, we didn't know who it was, American or German. But we kicked them newspapers out, and nobody didn't seem to pay much attention to us. But that was a memorable sight, especially when we went back over with the gliders and the newspapers, because it was daylight, or we could see. And all them Navy boats that landed down there, you know, you could see all that operation going on, and the troops going inland and everything. And you could see them warships sitting out there in that water, shelling them towns. But we went all up and down that coast there, and took in all of that. And then nobody seemed to pay any attention to us. But anyhow, we went on back to Italy then, and if you figure it out, you sit down and figure out your airspeed and everything, and see how much time that took. Well, it was a pretty long day. There wasn't any 16-hour law in the war. You just got your rest when you could, ordinarily. But thinking back on it, that was a pretty long day. But thinking too, we was flying there 3-4 hours at a lick, and you know you can get plenty of rest in that length of time if you're sort of trained to do it. Now, I was in 10 battles. I got 10 battle stars. And the way to work that was, they had designated a certain area and put a date on it from beginning to ending. And during that time in that certain area, that was a battle zone. And if you was in there at that time, you got a battle star. And if you was there before or after those dates, you didn't get a battle star. So I got a battle star for these campaigns: French Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Sicily, India, Burma, Naples, Fuji, the Apennines, Rome, Arno, South France, and the Air Combat Balkans. That was 10 battle stars altogether. And I had my engineer's wings. We had silver wings, just like a pilot. Now that debarkation center there in Naples was quite a deal. It was a big hospital and administrative complex, and they sent us through the mill there. We were deprocessed completely. Went through that hospital, and they give you an examination from here to there, physically and mentally. And our records were checked from beginning to end, everything. We were issued new clothing. We could take with us anything we wanted to, but it was all wrote down there. It was the United States Italian Custom House. We were checked out right there. Now, they didn't check us when we got back to the United States. And all of anything we wanted to bring back with us was checked off. All our souvenirs and things like that. And they took all of our money, our military money and foreign money that we might have. And they gave us a certain amount of a genuine United States currency. Now, the United States Army, Uncle Sam, he was a good joke back in them days. I often marveled at it since. And it wouldn't happen today, but it did then. Just for instance, now we checked in there to that debarkation center, and I believe we were there 6 days. Now, the first 3 days, we wasn't restricted. We could leave the place there and roam around anywhere you wanted to, because a lot of those soldiers, they hadn't seen Naples or Pompeii or Mount Vesuvius or the Isle of Capri, which was all right there within sight. And it gave them a chance to do that. And then, too, the first day we was there, they changed all of our money for us. And I believe they gave us $21 bills, American currency. Now, you didn't see an American currency over there. There wasn't none. And out there on the black market, it was worth more than gold. It just depended on how good a trader you was. You could go out there and you could sell $1 American dollar for $100 on average of that Italian currency. And then you could come back over there to the complex and trade that back for American military currency. They wouldn't give you any more American money. They just give it to you that first morning, one time. Now that's quite unusual. They just give a man $2,000, just handed it to you if you wanted to take it, and that's what I did. And I'm telling you, you just couldn't hardly beat it.
Well, I found out that I'm just repeating myself here. I've already told how I went on home and finished out the war and everything, finally got discharged. There was just one thing that I wanted to be sure I got in, was my trip over to Athens, Greece, right after we got back from France. Went over there and I spent a night in Athens, Greece. And sometimes I run into you, I'll tell you about it. That's a long, long story.
I'm going to stop this tape right here and make an announcement of sorts. I've already finished the tape. And I run it back to this point because I want to edit out enough stuff here to have room for this little announcement I'm going to make, which is that outside this will be my last World War II tape. Now, I think I got about 16 tapes. Well, on average about 30 hours of it. And actually, I just I had got off the tip of the iceberg yet, but I found out that it's not a very healthy situation. My deal in the Army wasn't, I don't think, is what you'd call typical. What I've said so far is about halfway typical, I guess. But if I go on, I find myself duplicating things. I tell stories that I've already told. And the reason I do that is because I want to keep these tapes clean, and so anybody could hear them, And my part of World War II wasn't a situation like it. It wasn't clean. Part of it was. Most of them. But I've got on tape so far. But if I continue, I'll have to tell about all my nights I laid in them whorehouses over there in the Casbahs, up and down that North African coast, all them foreign countries over there. Every night, we had those transport airplanes, and every night, outside of about 2 months that we spent in India, flying over into Burma, we had first-class accommodations at night. If it wasn't one of the best hotels in one of those capital cities, put up by the Mediterranean Air Transport Service, or one we'd paid for, or the home of some girl or woman that done picked us up for the night, or like I say, one of them Arab or French whorehouses. Well, it just wasn't that kind of a war that people want to read about. But that's kind of it was for me. I just happened to be in this elite outfit, and it so happened at the time that I didn't think my job of flying was near as dangerous as Uncle Slim did. And to me, it was just one big party. Every chance that I got off the field, away from the airplane, and that was every night. We were in civilization all the time, and there was no war going on. It was just one big party. Of course, I done all these things. I made 105 combat missions, and I had about 2,500 operational hours in the air. And flying was dangerous, but I liked it. And I didn't realize the danger then. And it just so happened that when we wasn't flying, we had the run of the country, cream of the crop. And if I go on these tapes, I'm going to have to go into all of that. And it's just like any 4 years out of a young man's life, sometimes just 22 to 26, just have the world laid to you. And so I find that just a little few minutes on these tapes that I told about actually what my job was over there on the airplane, that I had to concentrate and think back and about the way we done things and things that happened. And thinking back is not a normal situation, nor is it healthy. Up until I started making these tapes, I never thought about right off the top about any of the bad things that happened over there, or the times that I fouled up, or the times that I could have done my job a little bit better. At the time, we all thought that we was doing a good job, like they say. If you can walk away from a landing, it was a good landing. That's sort of like the way it was. But thinking back, it's so many things that I've done that I really don't want to remember about. And I hadn't thought about them until I started these tapes. And if I go on the tapes, I'm going to have to bring up some old memories that I don't want to remember, and people that are not around anymore. A lot of them, my friends, that didn't get through the war. So, for the reason that I stated, and a few others, this is going to be the last tape. And, well, this is the way it happened.
Well, there's another little tale I got to slip in here. when I first went in the service, they started working on my teeth, or they were in bad shape. They cut off all them jaw teeth of mine, recapped them, and pulled a lot of them. And I was snaggletooth. Man, I looked awful. I had one out right in the front, one of the upper teeth. But the Army said, well, according to the charts, this one hits that one, this one hits that one, and you can eat all right. And that's about all we care about. Well, I got out in California, boy. My morale was pretty low, and I decided I was gonna do something about that teeth proposition. And I was gonna have me some teeth made, but I was gonna have to pay for it. Looked like I didn't have no money, and there's an old saying, you know, go see the chaplain. So I figured, well, by gosh, that's just what I'll do. Well, I went over to the little old church, and I didn't notice what kind it was. It happened to be a Catholic church. There I was, a Baptist. But anyhow, I went in there, and there was a young priest in there, and well, he was real nice. And he wanted to know what he could do for me, you know, and I told him, said, I want to find out where I can borrow some money to have my teeth fixed. And I told him the whole sad story. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. Said, yeah. Said, I can tell you where you can borrow the money. But said first, he says, why don't you go and sit call over in the morning and see what they say about it. I told him, well, I already been over there. He said, well, you going over there again? Well, the next morning I went back over there, and I walked up there at that desk, and fellow wanted to know my name, rank, and serial number, you know. I told him. He said, Charles E. Harris. I said, yeah. Boy, he jumped up, started hollering around there. Everybody started hopping too, and put on a big show of it. Been waiting on me. But anyhow, they set me down in there and started taking impressions. And boy, in about a week, I had a pretty set of dinner tours, partial plates that you ever seen in your life. And it just that Catholic priest done it all. And I went back over and thanked him. He said, well, it done me more good than it did you. And that was one of the nice little stories.
Well, I finally cleared the field there at St. Marcus, and I had to go over to Jefferson, Missouri, to get my discharge. And I think that's where they discharge all the Air Force personnel, something like that. And I had my old car out there, 36 Ford. I bought it from my brother-in-law's daddy, old man Harry Gerard. He worked down there at Morgan Pontiac Company. When I first got back from overseas, well, Bill told me, said, why don't you buy that car from Dad? I said, okay. And I asked Mr. Gerard about it. No, he couldn't part with that old car, boy. He just couldn't do it. So Bill said, well, why don't you offer him $300 for it and see what he says? So I did. And boy, Mr. Gerard, he turned white and red and everything, and he stammered around. He didn't want to sell that car, but he just couldn't turn down that man. And finally he told me, he said, well, I'll tell you, he said, I was pulling down the old fence out there at the house a while back, and said, I slung a rod in that Ford. Said, of course, I fixed it. Put in a new rod, but said, you know how it is. You put a new part in an old engine like that, and said, something else might go out any time. Said, I'll tell it to you, if you promise me you won't drive it over 35 miles an hour. Okay. Well, Bill done a little work on the car. had it painted down there at old Frank Reed. Had a paint body shop down there on Northwest Edmond. And I took the old car out there. I run all over the country, but never did drive over 35 miles an hour. I was really proud of that old Ford. And on the way up there to Jefferson Barracks, I drive with my left foot sort of up under the seat. And you drive 3 or 4 hours, it gets sort of stiff. And when I first get out of the car, you know, maybe like drive up to a service station or a grocery store or something. Well, I put, if I was half asleep, I sort of limp in there. Well, here I come, you know. Somebody in that store, you know, they see a car drive up there and store to get out with a young woman, little boy in there. All them stripes and medals and everything on it. Come limping over there, you know. Bounded and about half shot up someplace. Because that's the last way, you know, they wanted to know where I got hurt and all that. And I told them my foot just went to sleep. And they said, well, that's the way it is, you soldiers, all of you modest. And shoot, I didn't have faith in that. Another little thing happened up there at Jefferson Barracks. I wasn't around there for a couple of days. But that first night, I run into an old boy there. He was sort of a live wire. We were going in town, have a big time. Well, we drove in there in that Ford of mine, and he said he had to go by the cleaners. He had a shirt or something there. Well, I pulled up there at that curb. He went in, come back out there, and he opened that back door, and he took that shirt on the coat hanger, and just hung it up there in my headliner. Just punched a hole, 2 holes in it, you know, hung that shirt there. Well, I got out of the car. Boy, it made me mad. I walked around there and I took that shirt and I threw it out in the street. I got in the car and drove off. I never did see that old boy again. Well, the day I got my discharge, we were all in the barracks there. Must have been about 25 of us. And we were going to march down to the headquarters there and get our discharge. And we fell out there in the company street. And this sergeant there started directing things. He called me up there at front center and said, take him down there, Sergeant. Boy, that scared the life out of me. That scared me to death. Been in the Army better than 4 years and never done nothing like that. And I was just an airplane king. But I got him to attention, and boy, we marched down there. I got away with that all right. Went in there. Well, they had them discharged all made out. And we had to look them over, see if they're all right, and had to sign them and give them back to the fella. He put them in an envelope there and wrote a name and address on the outside of the envelope and gave them to an officer there. And then they took us down there to a little chapel of a church outfit, and they had sort of a service in there. I remember this chaplain talked to us, and I remember him saying that we'd already fought the war, and he was proud of us and all that, and he was just waiting on his orders to go overseas. And then as we went out the door, this officer standing out there, them discharged and handed them to us, and that was it. July the 4th, 1945. That's just the way it happened. Well, I'll tell the way I received my promotion. I might as well. I made PFC out there at Marchfield, California. That must have been about June 1942. And I was promoted to corporal in Westfield, Massachusetts. And I was promoted to buck sergeant 2 weeks later, same place. I was promoted to staff sergeant about July 1944 in Rome, Italy. And I was promoted to tech sergeant 2 weeks later. And when I got my orders to come home, or just before, I had the option of being promoted to master sergeant with a flight chief job, or come home. And I decided to come home. I have some time left on this tape, so I'm going to tell a few little things that happened to me overseas. Well, talking about picture shows reminds me of another thing that happened when we were over in India. We were stationed at the same field where these airplanes took off to fly over the hump, over into China, over them Himalayan mountains. I know that you've read about it. And those pilots took off from that field right there where we were stationed, and they had a lot of gliders around there. And we pulled some gliders over into India. But in any case, this movie star Jackie Coogan was over there. He was a glider pilot, a captain. And he was there on the same field where we was. And these buddies of his, they're all clowns. Post anything around there, you know, to break the monotony and put on a show or something. But they had a special tent they had set up out there. It's sort of a sideshow outfit. And they had posters out on the front of it. It was a Jackie Coogan's headquarters. And they got specials of the day. And then one special was, I believe it cost you, for 1/2 pint of whiskey, you could see the very hand that rubbed Betty Grable's hair. You know, at that time, Betty Grable was a big, pin-up poster girl. And at one time, Jackie Coogan had been married to her. And another one of the specials was for a carton of Camel cigarettes. And you can see the very foot that kicked Betty Grable out of bed. Oh, they had all kinds of specials. Another special, I believe, was about 10 packages of gum. You can see the grin that won Betty Grable over in the first place. Well, it went on and on, and some of the facts come pretty high. It cost cash money. You can sort of imagine what they was. And, they fellas, they had lots of fun over there. We did too.
This is Sunday, January 11th, 1987. Who would have thought it? All I can say is thank you, Lord. Well, I wanted to add a few things to my story. Down through the years, listening to these news commentators talking about missional, they all pronounce it different. I've never heard anybody pronounce it right since I got back from over there. But anyhow, I read a while back that airport of Missional was the first place liberated in the continent of Asia in World War II. Well, it looked like that they sent us over there to see that it was done right. And then something else. Now, this island of Okinawa, it was the last campaign battle in World War II. And I read that in the spring of 1945, the island was pronounced secure by General Joseph W. Stilwell. I read that he was over there looking around because just a few weeks before, the commanding general over there, General Buckner, was killed by a sniper. And General Stilwell was either the highest ranking officer on the island at that time, or had been given that job as commanding general over there. But in any case, I believe that if the war hadn't ended when it did, with General Stilwell would have been the highest ranking officer in there, and probably led the armies into Japan. Of course, he would have been second under General MacArthur. Now, thinking back on our trip to India from Sicily. Now, we had been down to Cairo, Egypt before that, and we followed the land around because we had to refuel about 4 or 5 times going down there. Of course, we'd cut on down there to Tunis, and then get on down there to Tripoli, fly across that bay there to Benghazi, and going down there, I believe, to Brook, and we had to sit down about 4 or 5 times to refuel. But when we went to India and we put those fuel tanks in an airplane, so we cut right straight across that Mediterranean Sea there, and our first stop was Cairo, Egypt. And then we sat down there at Tehran, Iran, and refueled. And then the next stop, we had to go down there and check in at Karachi. And then go on up in Upper Assam. Of course, we had sat down there in Agra to take them fuel tanks out. But what I was getting around to thinking about, we went in when we went on in there. If we didn't have to check in there at the hospital and everything, well, we could have went right straight on over to Agra and save a lot of time. So we had